Hey everyone, this is Rat Skates. You're listening to the Nothing Shocking Podcast. It rules.
Want to know what's going on in the world of music? Then tune in to the Nothing Shocking Podcast, a non-genre based, all ages friendly rock and roll program. Join us weekly for interviews with all your favorite rock stars from the mainstream to the underground. You can find us at nothingshocking.libsyn.com or anywhere you download podcasts.
We're putting the band back together.
The numbers all go to 11.
I'm talking about bands that rock. Led Zeppelin. What about Sabbath? AC/DC. Motorhead.
Does that mean it's louder? Is it any louder?
Well, it's one louder, isn't it?
We're not worthy! We're not worthy!
Why don't you just make 10 louder and make 10 be the top number and make that a little louder?
These go to 11.
I get up off the ground and raise my head. Days like this, think I should be dead. One for Satan, two for me. Let's cheat the devil, it's fun, don't you agree?
Welcome to the Nothing Shocking Podcast. I'm your co-host, Jeff Untied, and with me in Dog Bowl Studios is
Coach Nez.
You can find the Nothing Shocking Podcast on Libsyn or any podcatchers. Like our Facebook page or follow us on Twitter at NoShockPod.
You can also find the Nothing Shocking Podcast on Rock Rage Radio every Sunday morning at 7 a.m. Central Time. Our sponsor is Ragged Records, located in downtown Rock Island, Illinois, and downtown Davenport, Iowa. We would like to thank the Hong Kong Sleepover for allowing us to use their music for our intro and bumper ending. Tonight's guest is
Rat Skates,
former drummer of Overkill and filmmaker. Yeah. Let's get to it, man.
All right.
Good night. Rat, welcome to the Nothing Shocking Podcast. I'd like to introduce to you my co-host, Jeff Untied.
Rad, this is going to be great to talk to you tonight.
Hey Jeff, how you doing? All right.
Well, COVID-19 created a mess in the music and entertainment industry the last few years. How did you keep your sanity and keep yourself busy during the pandemic?
Well, I thought a lot about what this pandemic actually was. I had COVID twice.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, and it definitely it harmed a lot of people. It killed a lot of people. My father-in-law is a perfect example of that. But like I say, I got it. I did not. I refused to get vaccinated, and I'm fine. I actually have, according to my doctor, I have more antibodies, or I have the most natural antibodies that a person can have. So I guess it depends on your health and your immune system and everything else. But I keep busy all the time. So your question was, how did I keep busy during that?
Yeah.
It's not like I'm out doing live shows where that was all shut down and everything.
Sure.
So I'm always able to keep busy. It really didn't affect me too much.
Oh, very good. Well, our listeners recognize you from your time as the drummer of Overkill and you as a filmmaker. How did you evolve from drummer to filmmaker?
Well, after having been basically suicidal from the music business, and having done everything that I did want to do, everything I dreamed about
Sure.
Since high school and everything, I accomplished everything I wanted, and getting into filmmaking was just a natural progression. I've noticed some others that were musicians at one time that aren't actively doing that, more than likely stay, or they try to anyway, stay in some kind of a creative endeavor, because it's not something you could ever actually shut off. Now, of course, making money at creative endeavors is an entirely separate thing.
Yeah.
So the marriage of art and commerce are one that constantly gets divorced, So
Very much so.
yeah.
In 2012, you released the film Welcome to the Dream, a documentary that addresses the issues that musicians face in the music industry. Can you talk a little bit more about the creation of Welcome to the Dream?
Well, yes, I can. Here's the thing. I've noticed that I have been... put it this way. Let me start again.
Go ahead.
Welcome to the Dream was never actually released. There's a 10-minute trailer. There's a pitch that I was doing as a director to get people on board and try to recognize how important it was to do that movie.
Yeah.
So what actually happened? And you're not the first one to say, that it was a movie that was released. It seems that way for some reason, but it was never actually released. It was written as believe it or not, as far as I know, one of the first docudramas, for lack of a better term, meaning that the story was going to be about a musician that basically mimics everything that really does happen to a musician or could happen to a musician, between all of the mental difficulties that you go through in being an artist and wanting to do this for a living, and of course the business side and all the other things. And anyone who has not seen that trailer, I think YouTube took it down. They don't like me at YouTube. They take down almost all my stuff. But it is out there if you search. I think the website should still be, it should still have the trailer and everything. It's very clear. You can clearly understand what it was about. But so what happened with that? And I do have to say, Welcome to the Dream. Now you guys, you watched the 10-minute version, or it was actually in sections too? You guys watched that?
Yeah, I watched both. Yep.
Okay. So this could definitely sound arrogant when I say it would have been the most important film ever done on the music business or about a musician's journey, because I was addressing the things that no one else has ever addressed.
Yeah.
And one of the big reasons that I found out and why I aborted the whole project is because to expose all these truthful things about musicians, about their life and their endeavors, difficulties, especially the business part, when I was going to accurately describe what the music business, how they actually, or what they consider an artist to be in terms of them making profit. That's why they're in business, is to make money. I had pitched this. Let me go back for a second. When I say docudrama, what it was going to be acted out, kind of like how the History Channel does a lot of these things where they have a portrayal. It's an actor portrayal of something historically or whatever. And I think they do a sensational job at it. So I was going to have, it was going to be acted out.
Yeah.
All right. But it was going to constantly be, it was going to cut to musicians that have actually walked the path and survived it and commenting about what actually is taking place, not speculative or anything else, from an actual through their actual experiences and what happens. So I had pitched this to let's just say about around 50, let's just say top recording artists, everyone you could imagine from all kinds of different genres, because a genre really isn't important. All right,
yeah,
right. So, I mean, everyone from, Paul Simon to Ted Nugent to, John Bon Jovi, and everyone, all of the management, which protects the artist, like, that's a whole other story, but they did realize, they watched what I had in mind, and they realized that if this comes out, and the artist that I represent is speaking in this film, it makes us look like the criminals we actually are. And so I had a few that were on the fence about it, but most of them said, well, who else is in this? And I said, Well, here's everyone who is waiting for that same answer. So when someone steps up, I'll have a definite roster of people. The one person who committed unconditionally to doing the film was Ted Nugent, which right, because obviously he loves to state his position in these kind of things, and he does it. I think he's sensational. He's got so much conviction. He's not afraid to say anything, and obviously he had his problems with the business and everything else. But I got so frustrated because trying to fundraise, and this is a notorious part of filmmaking on any level, is getting the funds to do these things. Okay, so I wasn't able to get a label on board, so to speak, or a production company, because I just wasn't. And the more I was working at doing this and reading books on fundraising and how to pitch your idea and getting grants and stuff like that, I was spending so much time, all of my time, on the business end of this. And I had already written most of the script, but I got so frustrated because it's like I could see what's going to happen with this. Now, okay, the film never came out, and it was never shot. I mean, parts of it were in sort of a draft sense.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But right now, for example, if that film came out, it would be censored. It would have to be, because it's kind of like if I did a very in-depth documentary on, let's just say, YouTube or Facebook, and they're censoring, you know what I mean?
Right.
And talking to people who work there, it's not going to, because they control, obviously, everything that gets seen or does not seen or is not seen. So it's pathetic. Like I said before, YouTube doesn't like me. They think I'm a troublemaker because I state certain positions on things, and if they don't, they obviously don't like it. And so it would have really opened up and revealed, and the people who were on board, like when you saw in the trailer, like Vernon Reed and J.J. French, and they thought it was a sensational idea. It's like, yeah, no one's ever done this. And all the time I'm thinking, I wonder why. Why has no one ever done this? And it's because of the reasons I just said, because the labels want to protect the artist and do not want to look bad. All right. So, very, very frustrating and very depressing. So I put it on the shelf with hopes maybe I'd do it again, or pick it up at one time. And actually right now I do have believe it or not, I do have the funding to do it now.
It's a must.
But here's I'm sorry, go ahead.
It's a must. We gotta see it. You gotta do it.
Well, yeah. I don't know of anyone else who's stepped up or who wants to step up and do something like this, because there is so many dysfunctional things about a musician or a creative person and their career and the business, and all the things like you saw in the trailer, like drug use and things like this, to treat some of their creative their creativity that they can't control or can't sort of come to terms with, like not being creative, if that makes any sense.
It does.
Yeah, and so it would have went a really long way. When I say important, because my whole thing was I really did want to help young musicians. Yes. As much as things have changed that I see right now, some things remain exactly the same. And as far as a musician and their desire of what they want to do, and how the industry and how they're treated and artists are taken advantage of, but this would have changed everything. It really would have. When I say it would have changed everything, it would have at least given that information to say, watch out.
Yeah.
Watch out for this, because it's going to happen.
But don't you think now it's more attainable for you to do these type of things now, since so many artists are not signed, they're not affiliated with any label, that they're kind of an independent, they're working for themselves. Don't you think that maybe you would be able to get the artists, or some of the artists that you want, because they're kind of doing it themselves these days?
Right.
Yes. Two things. I wanted to get the artists that had actually walked a path with on a major label, which supposedly is the ultimate goal is to be on a major label, to tour the world, be on a major label. I did that, all right? And I know a lot of the people who did that, and it's like, all right, well, it's not what you think it is. So, yeah, I could get artists that are not what legacy artists, you know what I mean?
Right, yeah.
To talk about this stuff, and that's fine, because now I did a documentary in, I think it was 2008, called Born in the Basement, and it was about putting Overkill together.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So this was DIY stuff before it was known as DIY, or before the majority of musicians were doing all these things by themselves. In other words, driving their equipment to their own gigs, setting up their own stuff, selling their own merchandise, booking their own shows, everything. So I did that and learned from it, and I was able to eventually get Overkill signed to a major label. So it worked back then. Now, here's what I've realized out of everything I could talk about right now, and I know I'm talking a lot without taking a breath, but you know, I think about it now. If a band, let's just say a band that was as talented and as unique as the Rolling Stones, for example, if the Rolling Stones did not have the power of the industry behind them, taking care of everything for them, never ever would they have written these iconic songs like they've written. It just couldn't happen because, yeah, I mean, I just remember my time. Now, Overkill's, a thrash metal band and all that stuff, so it's not like we wrote a Stairway to Heaven or an epic. We never intended to do that. Yeah. But when so much of your attention or you're distracted because you're supposed to be creating great music, that's everything. But your phone's ringing, you're seeing if people are retweeting your stuff, and all the other things I just mentioned. Do you have merchandise for the show? Oh, we got to get a van to get there. Who's going to help us out? It's just on and on and on. You're not thinking about songwriting anymore.
Right. You're
doing what artists do not want to do. Every artist would love to just create all day long. Mm-hmm. Now, when you do know some stuff about the business, because you do it, you pay attention to it, it could be helpful. But like I say, all of these iconic bands were able to spend so much of their time. This is what I've realized is the biggest. It's why music, in my opinion, all right, like classic rock, so to speak, classic rock stations. I don't think there is any more classic rock. I think in 20 years from now, they won't be playing anything that is newer than 1990. I'm speculating, but these great songs were written in a certain time period under a certain a state of mind where the band spent a lot of time in the same room with each other, and together created. There was a magic that happened, and that is right now what doesn't exist because of everything I just said, all the distractions, and they're doing things by sharing files, and instead of sitting and interacting. That's everything. That's, yeah.
Well said. Jeff, you got the next one?
Well,
hold on.
What's that?
I'm going to pass the next question off to Jeff here.
Well, I'm just going to go back to the Welcome to the Dream just briefly. It is an important message. I mean, the one thing that I guess I would like to see artists get out of it is it's okay to seek help. It's if you're struggling or you got an addiction or whatever, go get help.
Yeah. About did you say addiction and about getting help?
Yeah, that's the message that I would like to see come out of all of it. It's just that it's okay to seek help.
Exactly. And it always is. But because I went through alcoholism, I technically I have alcoholism. I haven't drank in 17 years, but I did, and I would have killed myself. And that all started on the road. And everyone, especially in the 80s, there's beer everywhere all the time. In fact, drugs, whatever, it's just, that was the lifestyle and that was cool and everything else.
Absolutely.
But your addiction always tells you that, hey, we'll give up a lot of stuff, we'll forfeit a lot of stuff, but I'm your best friend. You could get screwed by so-and-so. You could have all these problems, but you and me, meaning the alcohol, our relationship, we don't want to break that off. So, yeah. I just know that from my own experience. It's the last thing you want to stop is drinking or whatever, because it's your best friend. It's always reliable. You always know how you're going to end up.
Yeah.
Well, as you compare and contrast the mindset of a musician of the 80s versus today, how has the landscape changed for the better or for the worse?
Well, when you say landscape, you mean just...
I guess maybe the landscape of the business itself.
Well, it seems to me that I may be a little off here because I don't pay attention to it because I'm not actively doing that right now. So, but again, it seems to me the business is after the exact same thing. They know that if the artist, especially young artists, they're desperate enough, they'll sign anything. They'll do anything. What was funny is everyone that I talked to when I was doing Welcome to the Dream and everything else, it's like a young band. You see, one thing is if you're doing it yourself and you're pressing your own records, however that works, right. Okay. But if you are actually trying to partner up with someone, a distributor, whatever it may be, to release your stuff, you still do have to sign some kind of an agreement or a contract. Mm-hmm. The biggest mistake you can make is just, grabbing the nearest pen without reading anything and just, where do I sign? But that's what most of us did because, it's the holy grail, man. It's like, this is what you want. I don't really care what the contract says. I just want to make sure that I sign it,
Yeah.
And it was funny because I remember everyone I was talking to, I said the same thing. Like, in other words, you're sitting down with the label. You got your attorney that represents you. You got the label attorney, and you're sitting at this big giant desk, and everyone's wearing a tie and suit except me. I'm wearing a T-shirt and all that stuff, with the rest of the band. And our attorney is going. He's trying to explain to us what he wants to change in the contract, and we don't understand what he's saying. But we would all nod to each other, kind of like, yeah, man, that's definitely a good point. Yeah, because we were gonna ask you about that. We don't know what the hell he's talking about. Royalties, per diems, overseas, First Nation or favored nations. All we didn't know. Just like, yeah, man, yeah. That sounds like So yeah, and like we don't know what the freak he's saying, but you felt so important and you wanted to sign. So yeah, let's just make sure we're signed, and that's. So I circle back to your question. Sorry about that, but I think it's the same thing. People are too desperate, or they're not. They don't consider the ramifications of signing something when you don't know what you're signing, and then they go, "Wow, we just played a ton of CDs. I went on the Warped Vans tour or whatever it is, and I don't have any money. Yeah. I have nothing. As a matter of fact, I have a bill, to pay for the truck I rented to go and drive to all these gigs. Well, you have to understand this stuff, or that will happen. Yeah, Mm-hmm. So you got to educate yourself, and you have to. And it's easier said than done. I mean, not be afraid to say, nope, I'm not going to do that. You can't be afraid to do that.
As we see the evolution of technology in the music industry, now we see individuals making music on a computer that are not musicians, like through TikTok or something like that, and then they're making big money from it. Do you feel, though, that's good for the business, where you have these people just doing it on a computer and putting it up on a TikTok video feed, and all of a sudden they're making money, they're making thousands of dollars from it. I guess feel like the art of the musician is kind of going away, and these people are now just getting on their computers and generating this artificial music.
It's pathetic. It's pathetic. Things have changed. Like, tell me if you guys think, like, right now, like a song. Let's just take like a Stairway to Heaven, which is a long song, right? But it takes you somewhere. To me, it's maybe the best song ever written. I mean, I could never get tired of that song. Mm-hmm. But right now, today, if that came out, would it jump over the attention span of young kids? Or not even young kids, just everyone, because they just kind of want, this immediate, and it seems like they don't want to give things a chance. You know what I mean?
I agree.
Yeah.
I totally agree.
Like if they could hear the beginning of Stairway to Heaven and they go, this is too slow and I don't, it's too weak, or whatever they, critique they have. It's like a Stanley Kubrick movie, the best filmmaker like in existence. That his 2001: A Space Odyssey, that could never come out now.
No,
never.
No, not at all.
No.
Not at all.
It even had trouble back when it came out in the late 60s, because they're like, what the hell is this guy doing? What's he? This is too frigging weird. But you give it a chance, and you realize, wow, this is unbelievable.
Very much so.
Yeah. So I just think the electronic stuff, it's like, so if you could program, you don't have to be necessarily like a great musician, maybe you're just a great programmer. Well, those are totally different things. Engineering and art are different things,
Very much so. Jeff, you got the next question?
Well, I was just going to ask you, what's next for At Skates? What is there a project you're working on now that you can talk about?
Well, I have my own production business, so I still work in the filmmaking business. I do a lot of editing. I do producing. I'm involved in that, in the creative stuff. But I'm not sure what I'm going to do next. This is pathetic. I turned 61 yesterday.
Congratulations!
Happy birthday!
Happy birthday!
Oh yeah. Oh gosh, thanks. It's just and I think about that. It's like, what the frick, I'd be 60. I want to do one more something, a significant piece of media while I still have half of my marbles. So I'm not sure what that's going to be. I don't know. I can't help but we kind of, when we were exchanging emails, and I do have a great concern for what's going on with the country. You're probably going to hear more from me in terms of what's going on culturally and in society, and we're so dysfunctional right now. I have 3 boys. I don't know, you guys, if you have children and you see the world, and it's like, yeah. So this needs to be straightened out, and I'll tell you what, man, I'll sacrifice everything to try to be a part of whatever I can to help straighten things out and get the devil out of people's head, quite honestly.
Well, with social media being the dominant source in the music industry, because there's no more magazines anymore of any type that are, I guess, maybe important, but do you think artists are living a healthier lifestyle now because of social media, because the spotlight is on them? It used to be sex, drugs, and rock and roll. I know that we've kind of noticed that more artists are being more health conscious, and because Big Brother's looking over my shoulder all the time. Do you feel though that this is the positive end of social media, where I got to kind of walk a straight line because people are watching me with their phones all the time? What are your thoughts?
Well, that's very interesting because, I guess you know much better than me. I mean, actually, artists are going out of their way to, let people know that they're health conscious and things like that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Oh, well, okay. Well, I can't see that being a bad thing, but I think that if they're doing it just because maybe right now, and I don't know, but maybe it's trendy right now to do that. Things obviously always get locked into a trend. And if they're doing that for legitimate reasons, sincere reasons, then that can't be a bad thing. But if they're doing it just because they want everyone to know that they're doing it, which, is likely, then you're doing it for the wrong reasons.
Agreed.
If that makes sense.
Yeah, absolutely.
Now, I know you're not, playing music anymore and professional and stuff, but do you still dabble with playing for yourself?
Oh yeah, definitely. I play the drums reasonably often, and I sometimes get together with other people and play a little bit. And the thing is, as an obsessive compulsive person, what happens is that you just go, you could just someone who's generally my age, whatever, right? And we go and we play, and we're obviously playing some old covers and stuff like that, and then it sounds really good. Next thing you know, it went from like once a week to twice a week. Next thing you know, hey, we're almost making a set here. Maybe we should just play a show. It'd be fun. Next thing you know, you go out, you play a show. Next thing you know, you're starting to make T-shirts. Then, it's like, here we go. Well, we got to get a presence on the internet. And it's like, oh my gosh, here we go. It's hard for me to do a little of something. It's like all or nothing.
Well, with streaming music as the new normal for consumers, especially with young people, what do you feel as though will be to take the pop culture of music back into the tangible product? We're going back and we're buying albums, we're buying CDs, we're buying whatever we can have it in our hands again. Do you ever see that to be the forefront of music in the popular culture ever again?
I don't know. That's interesting. From what I understand is that people really are not buying CDs as much as they're buying vinyl right now. Is that?
Yeah.
Is that accurate?
Yeah, that is accurate.
Okay. Well, I mean, it's kind of like for me anyway. Like if I could read a book and have the book in my hands, or read it through a Kindle, I'd rather have the book. I could scribble on the pages, and I always have it. And if my phone gets lost or something like that, I still have the book. So I don't know, and things definitely do go in trends, but it's more profitable, of course, for whoever is hosting your music, whether it's Spotify or some of these other websites, that it just resides on a server somewhere. It doesn't cost anything. There's no inventory in a warehouse. There's nothing to manufacturing costs, none of that stuff. So I don't know. I don't know.
I kind of wanted to take this to the mental health part of the industry. We'd seen Taylor Hawkins pass away not too long ago, and issues not too long ago with Chris Cornell. We could just go down the list of artists that have passed away. And we talked about drugs and alcohol and substance in the industry. What do you, for your knowledge, I guess, is what kind of resources are there for the professional musician that are out there touring extensively, that are fighting addiction a day in and day out to stay clean and sober? What do you know?
Well, as far as resources go, alcoholism is alcoholism, and having myself spent, and I don't remain anonymous. In other words, I am part of Alcoholics Anonymous, but I choose not to maintain anonymity about my alcoholism. So because all these things like alcoholism and drug use is not selective. It takes no prisoners, and it doesn't care if you work on Wall Street or if you collect garbage. It doesn't matter. So I know Alcoholics Anonymous personally, and other people who are listening and may have recovered or going through recovery or whatever. It will save your life. It will. It's the most powerful thing, literally, that I think I've ever experienced, because it did actually save my life when I understood why I drank and what was wrong with me that I had to drink so much. So, and it's great because you go into the rooms of Alcoholics Anonymous. I mean, Eric Clapton, Elton John, these guys are known to show up in random AA meetings. And so, you're sitting, Elton John's or Eric Clapton's on one side, and the other side of you is an old woman who was a librarian her whole life but still struggles with alcoholism. And you can have a conversation with her like you knew her whole life because you have the same struggles. So I didn't have a drug issue at all, so I can't speak about that end of it, but get just get help.
Yep.
You know, the first step is admitting you have a problem. You know, otherwise you're gonna die, and other people are gonna get hurt in the process.
Oh, very good. I have one last question for you, and then we'll leave you alone for the evening.
Yeah, no problem. If you don't sign off, I'll be talking here till midnight.
Well, this is a question I ask most of our guests when they come on, and it just has to do with the mystery of rock and roll. We kind of touched on this before with social media. Social media has kind of let the cat out of the bag as far as, Led Zeppelin had a mystery. Kiss had a mystery. Elvis had a mystery. The Stones and the Beatles, they all had mysteries. Well, social media kind of exposed all that. With that being said, what do you prefer as an artist? Do you prefer the mystery of rock and roll, or do you like the accessibility of what the internet brings to? Well, if we didn't have the internet, we wouldn't be doing this with you tonight.
Yeah,
that's absolutely true, and that is a great point. And I'm glad you brought that up, because I would have not thought to mention that. But as the years have gone by, artists are typically more accessible, right? Where you may be able to email them directly and they'll respond to you, and they're hanging out at the bar, and if they're easy to meet, and they're not there is no mystery to that, and I think that is a horrible mistake, because if there is no allure to you, then people are not going to be hungry to find out about you. Right. You know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. Like, yeah, if you're just, yeah, man, oh, you know this guy? Yeah, I see him all the time, it's like supply and demand. Maybe that's not the right way to describe it, but if you're too accessible, there's no market value for you,
sure,
so to speak.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, right. That's what I think. I think you should not be, no one really, I don't think, unless you're, can walk around and say, oh, I'm not talking to anyone for no reason whatsoever because I'm a rock star. The fans will decide if you're a rock star or not.
Yeah.
Right? Not you.
Right.
But I wouldn't be so accessible. I would make people hungry for what you're doing, and it'll make more noise when they finally found out about what it is you were doing, instead of, all the time that you're tweeting and you're letting people know, and it's like, after a while, it's like, well, it's not important anymore, because I know what he's doing all the time. There's no weight, and there's no, I wouldn't do that.
Well said. Well said. So we're coming to the end of our allotted time. Is there anything that we left off tonight that you would like to discuss or promote or plug?
Let's see.
On the music end of things.
On the music end of things. Okay. Well, yeah. Because I do work with a podcast that is not a music podcast, and it does talk about the things I was talking about earlier. Go
ahead and plug away.
Things that are
plug away.
I'm affiliated with a podcast called Exorcism Earth. Okay? Mm-hmm. It's exorcism.earth is the actual the URL. And it's far removed from anything I've done, but like I say, I'm so concerned with what's going on right now. I despise politics, and I can't stand that everything is, and I won't go into a big thing here, but everything gets routed or sent back. Oh, you can't talk about that. It's political. Mm. You can talk about anything you want. You have free speech. And if you're after solving a problem, then you have to be willing to make sacrifices. And I am. So exorcism.earth.
Oh, very good.
And yeah. And so there's a podcast on Spotify and Apple and all that other stuff. And that's what I'm involved with right now, because I see things very bleak, and I hope I'm wrong, but I really think that we got to wake up because everyone says unite, 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 but no one's willing to like realize, well, what is pulling us apart?
Exactly.
So that's a whole other. Yeah, I could be hours talking about this. So you better listen to the podcast.
We will do that. So this is how it's going to work out. We have about 4 weeks of episodes released before yours, so we're looking about mid-June. And once it's all, Jeff over here gets it all edited and polished up, we'll send the link to you immediately. If you could share wherever you can, that'd be fantastic.
Excellent.
It was a pleasure talking to you tonight. And if you ever have anything that you want to promote, give us a ring, and we'll put you back on the show.
I definitely will, and I can't thank you guys enough for contacting me. I mean, I really appreciate it, and I wish you the best of luck with everything, because I think you guys got something very, very unique that you're.
Thank you.
Yeah, you're interested in music itself and a lot of artists. Hopefully, I gave you something that maybe was a little different.
It was fantastic. We appreciate it. We will talk. Right. We'll talk to you later, man. Take her easy.
All right, guys. Take care. God bless.
Bye-bye.
See ya. Bye.
last goodbyes. Move to the sunshine, fight the grip of nights. If they ever take from you, then you plug out both their eyes. They roll the dice. Take your chances.
Welcome to the night. You think you know Night Demon? Then the Night Demon Heavy Metal Podcast is for you. Step into the darkness as we peel back the curtain to give you an unprecedented, all-access look into the mind and the heart of the demon. We're talking band history, song analysis, studio anecdotes, stories from the road. It's everything a diehard Night Demon fan could want and more. This is the only place to learn the inside scoop, the deep dive trivia, the untold tales from the band members themselves and those closest to the Night Demon story. Need more? The Sacred Night Demon Crypt will be pried open to reveal demo recordings that have never before seen the light of day, all with in-depth commentary by the band and the people who were there for the writing and recording process. This is a gold mine, a treasure trove of all things Night Demon. Head over to nightdemon.net or wherever you listen to podcasts.